Hello Admirals and welcome back to my channel where I talk to you about Battlefleet Gothic, the space fleet game based in the Warhammer 40,000 universe. So this is kind of part 2 of the Tau starter fleets. In the last video I talked about the Games Workshop original Yellow Armada fleet that they produced, which was quite blocky, based on merchant and diplomatic kind of style games, or lore I should rather say. And then later Forgeworld came out with their own fleet, and it was kind of based more around the lore of sort of the Damocles Gulf Crusade and the Tau Empire's kind of learnings from that and other fleet battles against other races like Orcs and the Imperium and Chaos and things like that. And they realized in the lore that their merchant fleet wasn't really up to scratch, and it wasn't really a designated war fleet. So that was kind of the lore behind then the creation of sort of the more famous kind of looking ships for the Tau, which are kind of more like sort of that manta kind of sleek kind of sort of fish-like look. And this is a protector. This is from Forgeworld. So Forgeworld produced a set of rules as a set of ships for essentially the sort of Taurus campaign, Damocles Gulf. They kind of developed that sort of fleet. And you had a battleship, you had a cruiser, you had a light cruiser, and a couple of sets of different escorts. And they play slightly differently to the Games Workshop fleet. They have more maneuverability, they have more range on them. They lose the negativity of being boarded, but they do have less hit points. So they have there's a little bit of swings and roundabouts with them. They probably, in my view, have then created the best battleship in the game, in the Custodian. It's up there, right? There'll be debate, right? But it's up there for that ship. It's a really good ship, and some bonuses with it that really helps sort of sink the fleet. So in this next bit, I will go into a 1,500 point fleet, sort of a general all-round one that you can mix and match. And I think it's quite a strong fleet, to be perfectly honest, as well. And it plays to various different strengths. So yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so these are my two Kor'el or Forgeworld Tau fleets. I have one of my standard one, and then I went and created a Farsight Enclave fleet. It's just a paint scheme. They're exactly the same, just showcasing the two different styles, I suppose, but they're exactly the same fleet, essentially. I seem to have misplaced one of my Wardens, so I've just substituted in a little transport ship to act as it in this, but they're exactly the same. So what this fleet contains is 1,500 points. You have an Admiral attached, and a fleet roll and that sort of thing, which is about 125 points. But you have a Custodian battleship. These are the Custodian battleships, which, like I say, is a wonderful ship. Okay, it should be the auto-include in one of these fleets. They are that good. You have 3 protectors, so these fin-like ones that I showed earlier, these are the protectors. A couple of Emissary cruisers, which is your light cruiser variant. And then, as with other Tau, you need to have so many gravitic hooks on your larger capital ships to be able to bring escorts, and that's what these fleets do. So they bring 5 Wardens each, and then 3... No, what are these? These are actually... Yeah, these are the Wardens. Yes, these are the Wardens. And then these are the Castellens, yes. Sometimes even I get mixed up, huh? So you have 5 of those, and then 3 of the Castellens as well. So that makes up the bulk of the 1,500 point fleet quite comfortably. So you have a good battleship platform, a couple of frontline cruisers, a couple of light cruisers to benefit, and then escorts to provide extra missiles or torpedoes in this Tau fleet. So what this Tau fleet, this is a good all-round fleet. The beauty of this particular Tau fleet is their maneuverability as well. So while they're not hugely fast, they have 90-degree turns on everything but the Tau Custodian battleship. So these ships are quite maneuverable and can surprise a number of opponents by their ability to be able to twist and turn around the field. Now, one thing I should note with these fleets is you can, as with the other Tau as well, there are different variants of these cruisers. So there are a couple for Protector and a couple for the Emissary as well. Personally, I kind of like the standard Protector, but the other variant, you basically have extra guns at longer range, essentially, which some people, depending on your playstyle, if you want more firepower rather than ordnance, that's what you can go for. But personally, a Tau fleet, I think, is best when it's pumping out loads of ordnance. These particular fleets have quite a lot of missiles, which again do the same thing as the previous Games Workshop Tau fleet, where they can maneuver other missiles, so they can go out to 20 or 40 centimeters, up to you, rather than the standard 30 like other fleets, and they can turn in each ordnance phase. So that really adds, when you have a lot of them, some real tactical opportunities for this fleet. So like I said, this fleet has medium range firepower as well. It can shoot out to like 45 centimeters, which means you can be pumping out plenty of ordnance, so your missiles and your fighter bombers out, your mantas for these guys. So you can be putting them out at range, forcing your opponent to deal with those, while also keeping them at a sort of a longer distance. So this sort of style fleet is really good for kind of that mid-range game where you're kind of punching at long distance. And mid-distance. You don't really want to get into sort of boarding range with these, even though this fleet doesn't have that negative anymore, but you kind of want to stay at that sort of mid-range. And the bonus that you get with that as well is that in the Games Workshop fleet, you have to put in the messenger to be able to get the bonus around gunnery table. So if you're a messenger in that fleet, as per the previous video, you don't have that negative. The Custodian battleship has that inbuilt in it. So if you have this on the field and you have your ships close by, they get that bonus. So rather than having it on an escort, you have it on a battleship instead, which is pretty good, quite frankly. So the ability to be able to sort of box at that sort of medium to long range really does help this fleet, because you don't want to get into a real sort of gunfight, sort of a gunship kind of battle, because these ships have less hit points than other ships of their tonnage per se. So for example, the Emissary only has 4 hit points compared to, say, the Dauntless light class cruiser, which has 6. Protector has only 6 hit points, whereas most cruisers sit at the 8 hit points range. So it can't go toe to toe sort of with that sort of brawling gun sort of stuff. So you really want to keep it mid-range and go from there. So while you kind of want to stay in range of that sort of bonus from the Custodian, you don't want to clump together, because if one sort of warp core implosion or engine explosion occurs, these ships can go get crippled really quite quickly. So they aren't quite the glass cannons like the Eldar fleet per se, but you do want to keep them kind of out of that sort of brawling range that some fleets like to get into, like strike cruisers with Space Marines or Chaos fleets and that sort of thing. So there's a kind of 1500 point fleet for you, Admirals. You've got a bit of everything, a bit of general mix, really good sort of mid-range weapons while pumping out the ordnance, especially those missiles that are really good on this fleet. I think the playstyle, I would say, is kind of a cautious kind of. You have a bit of a cautious playstyle. Then when you're wargaming, then it lends itself quite well to that, because you don't need to rush. If you're in the fleet engagement, you can keep them at range. You don't need to rush in like certain fleets want to or need to do some damage, like Orcs, Chaos, Space Marines. They want to get into your face. This fleet can sort of hang back a little bit, protect itself, keep itself, and it has that maneuverability to be able to address with anything maybe trying to flank you or try and come in from your rear arc. So it's a really good fleet. It's quite forgiving, I think, as well, because it has got a good mix of both ordnance and firepower. So it's not as reliant as the Games Workshop merchant Tau fleet is on orders of reloading your ordnance. It still is, to a degree, but it does have that ability to be able to reach out and hit things and start doing damage. But be aware of its hit points. I remember a particular game I played back in the UK with my mate, and I was playing Imperials and he was playing Tau, and in the one game I used Nova Cannon Fire, and I killed, not once but twice, 2 emissaries because I rolled a 6 and a hit on the Nova Cannon scatter dice and killed 2 emissaries outright. So be wary hit points. They're not as sort of, they can't stick in the game as some others can. They do have an armor 6 prow, which is their deflect shield. But if they get a critical hit on their prow, that goes away. So you try and avoid that sort of in-your-face brawling game. Keep it at that sort of mid-distance, and keep pumping out that Ordnance. And it's a really strong fleet, really good. And the Custodian is definitely the darling of the fleet, in my view. If you have any tips on using Tau or any thoughts on it, please put it in the comments. But until then, see you around, Admirals. I'll catch you in the next video.